What's up, everybody? Welcome back to season 3. Whoa! Welcome back to season 1, episode 3 of the Go There podcast. I'm your host, Bethany Michelle, and today we're about to get deep. Today we're going to be talking about how I didn't plan this life, it just happened. And so I hope y'all are ready to dig deep into my story, learn a little more about me, and if not, you better scroll. But that's okay. Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for watching. And I appreciate every single person that tunes in, likes my podcast, leaves a comment, and supports me because this truly is my dream and I'm living it. And it's crazy. And I'm so excited for this episode to air because on the day that this episode airs, I will be just getting home from one of the best weekends of my life. Oof. So, on the day this podcast was initially filmed was Thursday, the day before I was leaving, or the day I was leaving to go on this trip, actually. And today is actually Friday. As you can see, I'm back home in Jacksonville. The trip did not go as planned. There was a bit of a miscommunication with some things. So I came home. But I had two options. I could have re-recorded an entire new podcast that didn't have any of that information in it, or I could have kept it real with you guys like I plan to always do. I just figured why not hop on, be transparent with you guys. The weekend didn't work out. There was a booking with the Airbnb situation. I don't know. I came home to Jacksonville. So, from the Bethany on Friday to the Bethany on Thursday, now's your turn. Get back into it. This weekend, I'm going to see my old roommate, my soul sister, my chosen family. Her name online is VJ Cobra. If you don't know, you need to get familiar. Go follow VJ Cobra online. My girl, we used to live together and we used to dream about this. I dreamed of being a content creator and she dreamed of being a VJ. Now, look at us. She is flying in. She's on tour with Schlump. Super freaking cool. She's on tour with Schlump. She's coming to Florida. And so I'm going to pick her up from the airport today. This episode is actually being recorded on Thursday, January 15th at 10:35 in the morning. I need to hard leave the house at noon. So I'm pushing the bounds here. I'm chasing the dream, pushing the bounds, living life on the edge, as some would say. But hey, it's fun. I literally used to dream about this. So one thing I want to talk about, like, that's been super on my mind is how I didn't plan this life. I didn't plan the attention. I didn't plan the pressure. I didn't plan the expectations. But once it showed up, I had a decision to make. I either had to grow with it or run from it. Those were my two options. And so I leaned into the chaos. And here I am now, talking to you on a podcast, on YouTube. Insane. Because if you would have told me back in 2018 that I would be living in Florida, be podcasting. Lord knows podcasting is not the full-time job. If you would have told me that I was chasing my content creation career and dream and making it into a career, should I say, I would not have believed you. I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have believed myself. I would have thought that people were fucking with me. Like, as a kid, me and my siblings, I was gifted a camcorder one Christmas. It was a freaking little orange one. I'll never forget. And we made so many music videos, YouTube videos. We had the year before we got that camcorder, we used my computer that I had and we made a song. Me, my brother, and my sister. My stepbrother and stepsister, but still. I've always had this deep-rooted passion and love for photography and filming and just documenting is truly what it is. Documenting my life and what is happening around me. And now that I've turned that into a career, it feels insane because I didn't wake up wanting to be a creator. I always dreamed of being like a doctor or in the medical field. Hell, I went to college to be a nurse. I switched my major to be in law school. I went from wanting to be a nurse to wanting to be an attorney. I actually never knew what I wanted to do. I never had a dream career. I was just chasing things that I knew would make revenue, make money. And it wasn't until I got the phone call February 2019 that my life completely turned upside down. I didn't even plan to move to Florida. That's the thing. Moving to Florida was never, ever, ever in the plans for me. I always dreamed of it, but it's not something that I set in motion or a goal that I obtained myself. It actually was an accident. So, February 2019, my stepmother committed suicide, and it was a day that changed my and many others' lives for completely ever. I'm looking at a fucking pirate. I'm trying to like get deep and be sad right now, and I'm watching the St. Augustine live stream as I normally do, and I just watched a pirate. I just watched this pirate walk out of one business and he's walking into another. Okay. So, February 2019, I got a call that changed my life forever. My stepmom had committed suicide. I didn't actually know what happened at the time. I just know that my dad called, told me that my stepmom had passed away, and like any good child, any good kid would do, anyone who's an empath would do, I immediately dropped everything. I'll never forget, I was at my friend Haley's house. It was me, Haley, and I think Megan. We were all chilling. We used to hang out, smoke, drink, chill real hard, and plug our phone into the TV and like scroll together on a big screen. And it was one of those days. We were just hanging out, drinking, doing our thing, and I got the phone call. And my body went into such shock. The two things I remember standing straight up on her bed, and then I remember being on my knees in her kitchen. Like, it was the most upsetting thing. So the very next day, I drove down to Florida. And that's what is the reason why I ended up in Florida. I never planned to move to Florida, and so many people don't know that. And I can't believe I'm even kind of talking about that on this podcast. But I think it is important for some people to know that and to realize that you can be given quite literally the worst scenario possible and still 5, 6, 7 years down the line turn it into your strength. Because like myself, I struggled and still do struggle really bad with those types of ideations, depression, mental health, anxiety. I feel like the whole world does. And I used to really think that there was a day where that would be my same fate. But after having that hit so close to home, quite literally in your like a parental aspect, even though we weren't physically close or close by distance or emotionally, it's still like it made me realize that that's something I can never do myself, you know? And it's kind of interesting how when grief or a tragedy, should I say, because at that point it's not even grief, you're still just shocked from the initial everything. Everyone gathers around you, right? So like my sister came, my brother came, my uncle came, both of my uncles came, just a lot of people came, and everyone was surrounding my dad. The funeral happened, and then one by one everyone just started to leave. And then I realized it was just my dad and I, and he was a lot more sick than he had ever let anyone know. He was a man with pride. And he also just didn't want people to worry about him. That was his biggest thing. He did not want to put the burden on people. So I did not know the state my dad was in until I came here, February 2019. I didn't even know he was on dialysis. He even hid that from me. And it's funny because, or it's not funny, I need to find better words. And I'm hoping that this podcast helps me do that. But the same way that him and her hid his sickness from everyone, him and I started to do that. We'll dive in. I'm going to do a whole episode about taking care of my dad. Don't worry. I love that man. I love sharing stories about him, and I hope that in the same way that I find joy in talking about him, people like enjoy listening to me talk about him. So the funeral happened, everyone leaves,
And I look at my dad and I realized it hit me. I was like, I'm never going home. I had literally the clothes on my back. I wore my stepmom's clothes to her funeral. Let that sink in. I wore my stepmom's clothes to her funeral. Like I had nothing. Was I 19 or 20 years old? I think I was 20 years old, but I had just moved out on my own. I was paying rent for the house that I was still living in at the time. I think I paid 3 or 4 months rent without even going back to Louisiana. I just had to start over here from scratch in a state where I knew nobody. I had no friends. I had no connections. By God, I had no way to smoke. I didn't even know where to get stuff to smoke. It was fucking miserable. I was so fucking miserable. I started drinking every day. And when I say every day, I mean every day. And it got a lot worse before it got better. And I'm saying all this to say that I was so alone out here that all I had, God forbid, all I had was TikTok. So if you ever find the time or you're just genuinely interested or you want to know, if you scroll and you scroll far down my TikTok, you will see. Trust me, you will see when my TikTok started. It started when I was living with Cobra. I had nowhere to go, and on my 21st birthday, I was told that my job here was done and that I can move back to Louisiana. And the only person I had met here was VJ Cobra. And she gave me a place to stay. I had no money, no will to live, nothing but depression and a drinking problem. I drove to her house and I'll never forget. She took my TV, my laptop. No, actually, I didn't even have a TV at the time. She took my laptop, my camera, and something else. She basically took the few things I had that were really expensive and worth something. And she's like, I'm putting it in this room. Go back to Louisiana, make some money, come here when you're done. You have a place to stay. And that was just the craziest thing. Like a girl I had barely known for 100 days gave me the grace and literally saved my life and gave me a place to stay here. And that's where this all started. That's when I downloaded TikTok. One of my first TikToks is me doing a handstand in the house we used to live in Orange Park, and my dog, which she's the whole reason why I got my dog. So Cobra, if you're watching this, I love you. I'm so thankful you gave me a chance out here. I'm like about to cry. Without that girl seeing something in me friendship wise, I wouldn't have even had the beautiful 5 years I had with my dad. I took care of my dad for 5.5 years. I just posted crazy stuff on TikToks. I posted memes here. I posted stuff there. I had viral videos. I went viral at least 30, 50 times now. And when I say viral, I mean like millions. Okay? Millions. Because I know viral is different for everybody. Trust me. I didn't wake up wanting to be a creator. I didn't know that I was even going to be living here in Jacksonville. I didn't know none of this would happen. It just happened. Opportunities stacked themselves because I stayed moving, I stayed busy, I stayed chasing my dream. I got jobs in photography. I worked in 2, 3 different photography studios out here, just learning different techniques, and I was kind of smart. I knew I was calculated when I got a job in a my first photography studio, because I knew I wanted to do something with cameras. I didn't know it was video at the time. I thought it was photo. And I thought, if I could get a job at 2, 3 different studios, I can take what I learned from each and then implement it into mine. And that's actually exactly what happened. All these lighting things that I know, which the lighting is fucking horrible today. I have no light set up other than my overhead fan right now. I'm just in such a rush. But aside from that, I'm saying all this to say I feel like I kind of rambled, had like an ADHD moment, but maybe some of y'all will be interested in hearing what, like, the backstory on how I actually ended up here, because it was a lot of fun. Once I found friends, it only took me like, 3.5 years, because I'm so scared of people. I'm terrified of people. I don't trust people. But it was a lot of fun, and it is a lot of fun living here now that I'm established. But now the fun has turned into responsibility because my dad's gone. I don't have anyone to help me pay the bills. I don't have anyone to help me with this HOA, this legal stuff. It's just my probate is still happening 2 years later after my dad died. I don't even know how that's still happening. It's just a whole thing. But all I know is I basically rambled this whole episode to say that none of this content creation journey that you see now came from me being ready. It just came from me being raw, open, honest, and transparent. Like, and me. And the final thing is myself. Because one thing that I always hear people say, and it always sounds so corny and so generic, is people are like, what do you have to do to be successful? People are like, just be yourself. It sounds so corny, but it's so true. That saying is there for a reason. For a reason. There's nobody that does you better than you. And if you're copying people, you're not using your own personality. It shows. It really, really, really shows. So if you take anything away from this podcast, just let it be this. If you're in a season, a scenario, a time in your life that feels heavy, feels scary, feels horrible, feels like you're never going to get out or make it out, because trust me, that's exactly where I was whenever I first moved to Florida. I fucking hated it here. I hated Florida for the first year and a half I was here. Just know you're not doing it wrong. Because God knows that's how I thought. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just growing. That's really just what it is. And you're going to look back at where you are now, and you're going to be thankful that you didn't give up. Because Lord knows I am. So, thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for listening. I love you guys. And I'm going to go ahead and end this podcast here because it's 11 a.m. now. I need to hit the road, Jack. I need to get going. And I'm just thankful that you guys are sticking around with me. And I can't wait to see where this crazy life takes me, because Lord knows I did not expect to end up where I am now. So, peace out, y'all. I got to go to Orlando and then Tampa. So if you're going to be at the Schlump tour this weekend, I hope to see y'all there. This is going to be released after it's done. Sorry if I missed you. Peace.